This morning we're here with Bill Kinirons, president of BMK Media Outsourced IT Solutions. Bill, say hi to the people.
Hi people.
So Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So we are a managed service provider. We manage servers, networks, cloud services, email products, things like that. We also do some project management like consulting. So if you're building a big building and you're running a big project, you will, often find those project managers get overwhelmed and they have a product, an IT product that they don't necessarily know. So we can kind of take ownership of that for them and they can be assured that it kind of works well. We also do some legal consulting. We help design questions for depositions and trials and things like that.
So one of the biggest things that you and I have worked with for how many years, 5 or 6 years at this point, is that helping a law firm grow from the ground up. You do that for law firms and for other businesses?
Yes, many businesses all over South Florida, regionally into Atlanta and the southern U.S. and eventually nationally.
And how does BMK Media assist law firms with A, their growth, and then B, their current clientele basis?
So on the growth side, we look at what you have now. We assess your current technology and kind of have some conversations about where you want to be, what you want to do. Do you want to be mostly flexible and working remotely? Do you not want that? What technologies are the best fit for your workflow and for your growth plans? And then from the client side, it's everything from, again, discussing plans for, how to discuss technology with a client. Is it relevant to the case needs? Is it something that we need to do discovery on a piece of hardware where they're, the opposing counsel is hiding something or claims they don't have it, maybe not hiding, things like that.
So cybersecurity is a very big thing that we deal with now in our field, especially when we deal a lot with people who are transmitting documents like tax returns, bank accounts, credit cards. How does BMK Media help law firms with that process?
So first and foremost is education. We talk to both sides of those parties if needed, but primarily our own clients. Here's how you protect documents. Here's how you transmit data securely. We use an end-to-end encryption product for email so that you know that the recipient is going to get it. And if the recipient's email box gets compromised, your data can still remain safe. Multi-factor authentication for your access to systems is important so that people can't just guess a password because people tend to be lax on choosing passwords. So we have to find a way around that to guarantee that that's not a concern.
So our law firm is cloud-based thanks to BMK Media. Can you tell the audience and all the people out there what a cloud-based law firm is?
So there's a bunch of components to that. So your business management product, your product that you manage your law firm from, is essentially cloud-based. It's essentially you work on it through a web browser. So that part is lightweight. It doesn't take up physical space on your local system. So that kind of removes the need for a traditional on-premise file server because all that data is backed up there. Then, as far as a workspace is concerned, we have a cloud-hosted workspace so that you can log in from anywhere and access that data and that workspace and your files in a way that doesn't necessarily require your office to be online. If there were a large power outage, we're in South Florida, hurricanes are a thing that we have to be concerned about. So your firm can continue functioning as long as you are able to find internet and power anywhere in the world.
So I could take my laptop, drive anywhere, fly anywhere, and remotely access my business.
I prefer and recommend places along the equator, but yes, anywhere else too.
Perfect. And you talked about cyber. You talked about the security of documents. That's again, that's a very large thing in our field. Is people submit very personal information, and how secure is the cloud versus on hard drive?
It is always a big concern about whether the cloud space is more or less secure. I think that it really is what you do with the space, in either space, that makes the security. So in an on-premise scenario, you're less of an overall target unless you're big enough to be a specific target. In a cloud scenario, you're more of a target as a one of millions, essentially. So there's concerns in both spaces, but in the one of millions side of things, in the cloud space, you have the benefit of the background infrastructure being massively concerned with security. So there are resources tens of orders of magnitude beyond what you're spending dedicated to making systems secure. So you're paying a facility to make sure those systems are secure, and you're paying your share of using those resources. So to that end, there is definitely something to be said for how secure a cloud system can be over the fact, over an on-premise system where things may be neglected or postponed for lack of time or resources, which lots of people are guilty of when they don't have someone like us watching those systems.
So a simple way of putting it would be that Microsoft security in the cloud is probably a lot more secure than sitting on my hard drive at my office.
I would say so.
Perfect, and that's a big thing for us with clients. And Bill, so a question from our audience is always the question about security of cloud-based versus physical hard drive of your computer. Can you tell us a little bit about what you think is more secure against hurricanes, floods, any of those problems?
Sure. When we're talking about fire, theft, flood, any of the the physical disasters that can occur, in addition to just general hardware failure, the cloud is definitely more secure. In terms of business continuity, the cloud is going to be able to be, you flick a light switch essentially, and I've got a new instance of that server relaunched and running, depending on the system that you've got, 30 seconds or less. Like we can have downtime that's essentially non-existent with the cloud, whereas with hardware, you need to stock spare parts for your specific equipment, you need to be prepared way in advance for a lot of things, and then also be prepared to implement those procedures in a physical space where you may not necessarily have someone available to do that.
So when you're talking about not just security, but also easy access to data, if a hurricane comes, such as we live in South Florida, I could take my laptop, get in a car, get in a flight, and I have full access to my whole office that way.
Correct, yeah. Anywhere you've got power and internet yourself, and you have access to your data, and you can continue to do business unaffected.
So what's the ideal client for BMK Media?
Really anybody who wants to improve their technology usage, right? So maybe it's someone that has a current provider they're not necessarily taking full advantage of, and that maybe they don't feel like that provider is helping them move to the next level. They're just kind of collecting the paycheck and kind of letting them be stagnant. But also it's somebody who's starting out and needs some guidance. And we like growing businesses, law firms, and any other. We like seeing the success that our assistance and expertise and knowledge can help to speed up. And we've done it many times, and we're very happy to do it.
Do you have any advice for people who are, especially in family law, who are going through issues such as divorce, child custody, or anything like that, relating to social media?
Keep it off the internet. I mean, honestly, the only thing I think that you should be putting in writing is with your counsel at that point. Like, you shouldn't be typing it on social media, you shouldn't be texting it to friends, it should not be anywhere else. It's private business, and it needs to stay that way if you want to be protected.
So Bill, what is the biggest horror story you've seen walking into a client's office or a telephone call regarding tech?
There are so many. I think one of the biggest ones has been when companies have specialized equipment. So places like doctor's offices or dental facilities where they have like a machine that like gets x-rays of a jaw, for example, and those machines aren't backed up. Those machines can cost literally $250,000 sometimes. And to have that machine on the network running day to day, and then by no fault of anyone's at all, hardware fails and you've lost 10 years worth of x-ray records. Just those are the big ones where you're like, wow, no one put any thought into this. They just assumed it's infallible, and that's just simply not the case.
If somebody thinks that they are not susceptible to an attack or a phishing account, didn't something like this just happen to Jeff Bezos recently?
Yeah, I was actually just reading that this morning. The fact is that they are. I mean, there's a simple incorrect assumption. Everyone is susceptible to some form of this.
Bill, a question I was just texted by a lot of my clients was Android or Apple?
I personally am an Android guy. There's some flexibility options that in my field is just kind of I can't do without them. But honestly, from a security standpoint, they're both fine, and Apple does a really good job of locking their devices down. So from that point of view, almost doesn't matter as long as you take the right steps to secure it. Definitely passwords, definitely, don't give them out, make them as complex as possible.
And which one would be better for taking selfies with my dog?
I am going to say iPhone. I think they have a better front-facing camera, but I'm also going to take that, I'm going to hold you to that and get you a dog.
I'm Mark Sawicki, and we want to thank Bill Kinirons, president of BMK Media, for coming on set with Sawicki, where we always protect your peace.